All right, to switch gears into football here, some local team action. Sam Darnold, the quarterback of the New York Jets, was traded to the Carolina Panthers for 3 picks, a sixth, a fourth, and a second round pick. What does that mean for the Jets? Who are they going to draft? Is Sam Darnold going to get a second shot in Carolina? What we got to say about this?
Well, I think we already knew this was coming. The reason why we knew this was coming is because the San Francisco 49ers, they traded pretty much everything except the deed to the actual facility they work out in to the to basically go up to the third pick overall. I think obviously if they would have offered that to the New York Jets, if they were not actually looking for a quarterback, they would have accepted that deal. But because they did not accept that deal, we understood the Jets was going to eventually take a quarterback. Now, as of right now, you look at a whole bunch of mock drafts, it looks like they're going to be taking Zach Wilson. Now, of course, the mock drafts aren't necessarily always 100% right, but Zach Wilson right now is basically universally known as the second best quarterback coming off of the board. In regards to Sam Darnold, though, I mean, he had to get up out of New York first and foremost. New York fans aren't necessarily the best in regards to bad playing people. So I think going to Carolina is definitely going to be a decent change of pace. I personally just don't like Sam Darnold. I talked about this before. I didn't like him coming out of college. The biggest knock on Sam Darnold was that he was too turnover prone. And if you turnover prone in college, 100% you're going to be turnover prone in the NFL. And one thing you cannot do in the NFL as a quarterback is turn the football over. So because of that, he's probably not going to be good in my opinion. But the Carolina Panthers, they needed a quarterback with potential. Sam Darnold is that, even though he spent 3 years in the NFL already, he's still only 23 years old. He's literally younger than a lot of the draft picks that's coming out this year. He's younger than Joe Burrow even. So because of that, I mean, they got what they want, a young quarterback with some potential, some talent. Maybe they could kind of coach him up. But as of right now, I just don't necessarily like the deal. I just don't like to play with Sam Darnold, and I like the deal that the Jets got.
My thing about the Jets is they're just a horrible franchise. They are like the worst franchise that I've seen in a while. They'll do something as crazy as draft Jamar Chase with the second overall pick in the draft, which is like, what do you need that for? But I like Sam Darnold, and this is my thing about QBs coming into the league. I think that no matter how talented you are or how average even, it really comes down to the organization you go to, the scheme, and the quarterback coach and how they develop you. Because you can have the intangibles in college. College is really to get that maturity and to really understand the game. But the NFL is a completely different game. There's no reason why you can't be a completely different player. That's why a lot of quarterbacks you see, Tom Brady is a great example. He wasn't high on the draft board, but he ended up being the GOAT. So as far don't y'all out there say that I'm comparing Sam Darnold to Tom Brady. Don't you ever do that. All I'm saying is, for a guy like Sam Darnold to go to a better organization, which is the Carolina Panthers, to have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, he actually has some solid receivers like Robbie Anderson, who actually came from the Jets. I think that they have a better situation for him. It's a fresh start. It's not under the New York spotlight. You might even see Sam Darnold start to, progress, because Adam Gase did a number on him as far as like regressing him, taking away his confidence, taking away all the talent possible around him. So I think it's actually a good move. What will the Jets do with that pick? If they don't get Zach Wilson, they might have to be drug tested. Everybody has to get fired, because this is where it starts. This is where the new age of the Jets start. You gotta go get Zach Wilson. You gotta build around him. And Sam Darnold, I wish you the best of luck. I really think you're a talented QB, and I think that the Panthers are going to be a great organization for you.
Now, I'm going to have to disagree. I think the Jets handled this wrong. I feel like they should have kept Sam Darnold. And the reason why is because they traded away Sam Darnold, and they're just going to draft Sam Darnold 2.0. I see them as the same player. I really don't see that much of a difference between the two. And I feel like they have the cap space for it. They have the salary room they have room to build around Sam Darnold, go buy a line. They have picks in this draft. They could have drafted a wide receiver at number 2. Sorry, Tyler.
Jamar Chase.
And they could take Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris. They could put weapons around Sam Darnold, and they could have built off of that. I don't necessarily like the move of trading Sam Darnold away.
Now, here's the thing, bro. I keep it 100 with you. I don't know what you're talking about. when it comes to Zach Wilson, and Sam Darnold, they're completely different quarterbacks. Obviously, they're the same guy in terms of hey, you drafting a new, young, fresh quarterback that you hope is going to be the franchise player of your team. But I think in regards to actual college tape, actually what they did in college, 100%, Zach Wilson looks like looks just completely different. Like he's on a completely different level than Sam Darnold. Coming out of college, one of the biggest upsides to Sam Darnold, we talked about this. He's young. One of the biggest upsides to him was that he was 20 years old. You could basically mold him into exactly what you want. We see this even in the NBA. People like the foreign players at 18 years old, man, because they could potentially become a Giannis Antetokounmpo or a Kristaps Porzingis. It doesn't always work out like that. Sam Darnold, in my opinion, is possibly one of those people that didn't necessarily work out like that. He's just not necessarily. He just doesn't have the goods. He doesn't have the gusto. I think Zach Wilson is a completely different breed. Now, here's the thing, though. The Jets right now, they are in a very difficult position. As of right now, Zach Wilson is like universally known as the number 2 quarterback. Obviously, number 1 is going to be Trevor Lawrence. But if they choose wrong, and one of the other quarterbacks, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, or Justin Fields, turns out to be a phenomenally better quarterback, everybody's going to look back at this pick right here as being completely trash. Like, for example, the Bears picked Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson. We'll get into that later. But over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. At that point, people automatically thought that, Mitch Trubisky was going to be the most pro-ready quarterback out of the 3 that was there. It turns out he was the worst quarterback. The Jets right now, they're in a very peculiar situation. Of course, you want to be the guy to have the pick of the litter, but still, it's a little bit, nerve-wracking.
Just a quick statement or comment on what you said. How about how the Bears drafted Mitch Trubisky? They actually traded up to get that pick. Let's not leave that out. But to go off, I want to respond to Adrian. So we talked about this earlier too. Even if Zach Wilson is 2.0 Sam Darnold, which I hope to God he's not. I hope he's better because we need some good football in the New York area, in the tri-state area. I think that they really did this to save money. You don't want a guy like Sam Darnold. What? This is about to be year 4. You don't want to get into contract negotiations, and now you're franchise tagging a guy, and that gets expensive. Why not just hit the reset button? Now you bought yourself some more time with another rookie deal. You still got cap to build around him, attract free agents, because that's the only way that big names move in football, when you throw them the bag on a really bad team. Now you speed up that process of, and molding a guy like Zach Wilson or, Justin Fields or whoever they want to go with the number 2 pick. So I think that's the best point or the best way to view that trade as far as how it benefits the Jets.